Senate Republicans in the Judiciary Committee had made it clear that they're planning on hiring a prosecutor, likely a female prosecutor, in order to ask questions of Dr. Blasey Ford during the hearing. And there was some concern about who this individual would be. Senate Democrats were especially concerned because there was a lot of secrecy and a lack of transparency surrounding this person. It's also very unprecedented to get a professional prosecutor involved in these types of proceedings. And so since the Senate Judiciary Committee consists of Republican men and Republican men only on the Republican side. Of course, there are Democrats on the Democratic, women on the Democratic side. They say, hey, you know what? We just don't want to seem, insensitive, so we're gonna have a woman ask the questions. That is the argument that they're making. But here's what we know about her. She's a sex crimes prosecutor from Arizona. Her name is Rachel Mitchell, and she will ask Ford questions on behalf of Republicans at Thursday's hearing. Mitchell is on leave as chief of the Special Victims Division in Maricopa County Attorney's Office and has decades of experience as a prosecutor. She also identifies as a Republican, which I guess is fine. But I think it also makes it clear that they are planning on going after her. I mean, that's the fact that they're being secretive about all of this, the fact that they're, all of a sudden changing the terms of the hearing, which is something that Democrats have been complaining about. Why are they doing all of this? The fact that they're refusing to get an FBI investigation involved to get to the bottom of the truth. I'm happy that Dr. Blasey Ford is testifying, but I also hope that she knows, and I hope everyone knows, that it doesn't appear to be a fair hearing as it stands right now.
So the only part I object to, well, I object to two parts, and very significantly so, is them claiming that this is somehow a neutral person. No, she is a lifelong Republican who is going to question people on your behalf. She's going to question Dr. Blasey and presumably Kavanaugh, but I'm not even clear about that, on behalf of Republican senators. So that's okay, that's fine. You could, but just say it. Don't pretend like, oh, we found this neutral person out of nowhere who's just going to do these just because she's an expert. Just because, no. And it doesn't mean she's a lifelong Republican hack or donor, et cetera. In some like Kavanaugh, for example, is a political apparatchik. So when people like Chuck Todd say, was he being a partisan warrior by going on Fox News? Hey, snap out of it. The guy worked under Karl Rove. He worked as a political apparatchik his whole life. Kavanaugh is not neutral. He was picked because he's one of the least neutral people in the country. He's one of the most right-wing zealots in the country. So why are we pretending, right? So, but when they say, hey, Blasey Ford gave money to a Democrat once, I say don't hold it against her as that she's some sort of apparatchik like Kavanaugh. Equally here, the prosecutor gave money to a Republican once, but it was a normal donation. It wasn't like a Bloomberg or Koch brothers kind of donation. She's not an apparatchik. She appears to be a career prosecutor. Now, she's a career prosecutor in Maricopa County, worked with Sheriff Joe, presumably for a long, long time, and didn't seem to object to that. But one thing is absolutely clear. Republicans picked her to represent them because she is a Republican and on one side, not because she's neutral.
So
Republicans
in the Senate Judiciary Committee keep arguing that they don't need to get the FBI involved because this isn't a criminal investigation and the FBI doesn't do criminal investigations, even though, as we've said a billion times, the FBI would be doing a more extensive background check, not a criminal investigation. But then simultaneously, they're turning this hearing into basically a criminal trial, right? Because they're getting this prosecutor involved to carry out their line of questioning. Why is that? And we know why it is. First of all, they know that she's experienced enough to, paint this picture of her in her line of questioning. And since she's a woman, she's not going to have to deal with the same political consequences that people like Mitch McConnell, Orrin Hatch, other members within the Judiciary Committee would be concerned about. It would cost them politically if they were vicious to Dr. Blasey Ford, and they want to be vicious. So instead, they're going to get a woman to be vicious for them. That's really what's at the heart of what's going on here with this prosecutor. Now, go ahead.
So look, I have two things to say about that. on the one hand, don't get me wrong, at some point they gotta ask her, hey, what happened? And they gotta ask about some of the details. So it's one thing to ask probing questions about that day because they don't have a choice. It's another thing to then to go further and say, all right, who else did you date and what kind of woman were you at the age of 15? Now, if they go in that direction, I think that's wrong, whether the senators do it or the prosecutor does it. But don't get me wrong, they gotta find out what happened that day to the best of their ability. Now, on the other hand, it is incredible political cowardice on the part of the Republican senators to basically hide behind Rachel Mitchell's skirt and say, hey man, it's not me, it's not me. I got a woman, I got a woman to do it, so it's okay, I'm not guilty. No, just at least have the courage to represent yourself. They didn't elect her, they elected you to represent them. So, but they don't have that kind of courage, so they're gonna hide behind her.
Well, before they grow some courage or develop some courage, they might wanna learn Mitchell's name, especially when they're gonna do press conferences and interviews. So here's Mitch McConnell discussing this prosecutor and also giving her a different title during the conference. Take a look.
You don't have women making decisions about Judge Kavanaugh. What message does that send to the American people?
We're looking for the truth here. I don't think because you happen to be a male, you're disqualified from listening to the evidence, and making a decision based upon the evidence. As I said earlier, and I think you already know, we have hired a female assistant to go on staff and to ask these questions in a respectful and professional way.
Female assistant, she's a prosecutor. Okay, so there's that, but I wanna.
So look, a lot of people are outraged by that. I don't know, I'll speak for myself. I'm not as outraged. It's just, it does speak to a frame of mind, right? We've hired a female. We know, you already said her name, everybody knows. But it's okay, with a female, right? And she's now an assistant. Just call her a career. But you know why, my guess as to why he paused, you notice him pause there? And went with assistant, which sounds a little degrading to some people, right? I'm not as, well, no, it's annoying, okay? But I think that he didn't want to call her a prosecutor because they hired a prosecutor to go after her. So I think that's why he was like, female assistant.
Yeah, I'm not outraged. In the context of what's going on right now, that is the least outrageous thing that's happening.
Agreed,
okay?
agreed.
So then you have Senator John Kennedy, who can't even remember the prosecutor's name during an interview.
I don't know that every committee member has given up the right to ask questions, but I know I intend to defer to, I can't remember the name of the prosecutor, Ms. Mitchell, I think. Ms. Mitchell, yes.
Is he the crypt keeper? Is that who that is? Okay, so look, to be fair to John Kennedy, he did once grill a Trump judicial appointee in a terrific way. So
I don't care. That's a separate thing. He remembered his talking points during that interview. He remembered them real well. Look, and again, in the context of what's going on, these are the least outrageous things that these Republican senators are doing. But with that said, understand what they're doing, understand what their motivations are. They're not getting a woman involved because they want to be sensitive to the assault victim here, alleged assault victim. They're doing it because they want to hide behind her skirt and they don't want to lose political points by doing what they really want to do, which is hounding her, smearing her, probably asking her questions that are degrading. Look, the hearing's gonna happen tomorrow. This is my speculation as to what's gonna happen during the hearing, but I would love to take a bet and prove that my speculation is gonna be right.
By the way, we'll be covering the hearings, tyt.com/live. You'll get to watch all the hearings and our analysis live on it throughout the day tomorrow. One last thing on this, the Anita Hill hearings were in 91, 27 years ago. At the time, every single person on the committee was a white male, and Mitch McConnell's right. Just because you're a white male doesn't disqualify you from having opinions on this issue. But what would also be helpful to the American people having a variety of perspectives, especially a woman's perspective in a situation like this. Not exclusively, but it would be nice to have some women in the room to ask questions as well. So will the Democrats have accomplished their end of it to some degree? There will be 4 Democratic senators who are women. who will be participating because they're the ones on the Judiciary Committee: Feinstein, Kamala Harris, Hirono from Hawaii, and Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota. The Republicans, all 11, are still white males. But no, that's at this point, I suppose, unsurprising because that is the great majority of their voters. But this is the stunning fact. In the 202-year history of the Judiciary Committee in the United States Senate, the Republicans have never put a woman on that committee. Never, not once. There's 11 people on the committee, and they rotate. And through 202 years, they just couldn't find a way to put a woman on a Judiciary Committee. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.